Hi, this is a very unusual question. I was talking to my boyfriend and the topic of gay people came up. My brother is gay. He mentioned that he is fine with gay people, but only those who are tops, not bottoms. I thought he was joking at first, but then he explained that it is because when you allow someone to penetrate you, you are allowing them to disrespect you. I thought that was a very strange opinion. I asked him whether he feels this way about women too, that when a man and a woman have sex, the woman is being disrespected. He said yes, that even the most respectful penetration is still inherently a little disrespectful. That made me feel very uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a little kink sometimes, dirty talk, roughness, a little disrespect, but to me that is role-playing. It is not real. To him, it seems there is always inherent disrespect, and he is fine with that. I think it bothers me because it means that even when we are having vanilla sex, or sex that is really loving, intimate, and slow, to him he is still disrespecting me. I think I understand what he is trying to get at, that being penetrated is a really vulnerable thing. But to me, that is very different from disrespect. I think it is beautiful when people love each other so much that one partner is willing to be so vulnerable with the other. Calling it disrespect seems a little perverse. It has been about a week of me trying to process this conversation, and honestly, every time he initiates sex, I turn him down, because all I can hear him implying is, "Do you want me to disrespect you right now?" I guess my question is, am I right to feel uncomfortable, or is this a common belief among men that I am overreacting about? Story 1. Yeah, it's a strange opinion to have, and as a straight man, I feel it reveals some troubling beliefs. If he sees it as disrespectful but is okay doing it to you, it means he doesn't respect you. If he's okay disrespecting you in that way, what stops him from disrespecting you in other ways? Lastly, it also strongly implies he doesn't respect most women and likely doesn't respect gay men he perceives as effeminate. Story 2. What the actual heck? Has he been listening to extremist radical feminists or something? That's literally an insane take. Story 3. He mentioned that he is fine with gay people, but only those who are tops, not bottoms. This is tied for the most ridiculous thing I have read this week. Story 4. It is going to be very disrespectful when his doctor has to stick their fingers up his rectum in old age. Story 5. He is equating sex as a dominant and submissive interaction, and the submissive is always being disrespected in real life. That is a pretty unhealthy, macho way to perceive sex. As you have figured out, he does not see it as one-to-one, and you are not his equal. It is honestly making me sad to think about it. Story 6. If this is not a language barrier issue, it is definitely a disrespect issue. You may encounter many problems later regarding compatibility if he is behaving like this now. Be careful. Story 7. No, your boyfriend is the unusual one. It is understandable for him to not wish to be penetrated, but to view it as disrespecting the person being penetrated is unusual. Consider talking with him about it to find the source of these ideas. He might have a previous trauma associated with penetration or may be influenced by disturbing content on the internet. Story 8. Oh Jesus. First of all, your boyfriend is being an idiot. I trust you figured that out for yourself. Secondly, he is full of nonsense. He probably does not dislike bottoms because they are disrespected. He dislikes them because this is perceived as more gay in the public eye than being a top. Having anal sex with a woman is not functionally any different than having anal sex with a man. As he might entertain the thought of anal with a woman, this is probably an unsettling realization for him. So, he made up perhaps the stupidest reason for why being a bottom is worse or more shameful than being a top. You are not wrong to feel conflicted about having sex with a man who has told you that he is disrespecting you by being intimate with you. This came from a combination of homophobia and sexism, so it is extra gross. Frankly, I would like to see you suggest that you take turns penetrating one another so that nobody is exclusively disrespected. After all, he doesn't want things to be unequal between the two of you, right? To answer your original question, I have never heard a man claim that penetrating someone was inherently disrespectful. I have not heard this in locker room talk, I have not seen this mentioned online, and I certainly have not heard this expressed by polite company. In the best-case scenario, your boyfriend is employing some desperate coping strategies to handle his inexplicable feelings about homosexuality. I do not say this as an insult, but there may be something going on there. In the worst-case scenario, he thinks that he is degrading you every time you have sex. Even if you do not agree, it would be crazy if you did not have some feelings regarding this. Hey babe, we have been dating for a while now. I really like you a lot, and I am ready to take things to the next level if you are. How would you feel about me disrespecting you tonight? But only if you are ready. This is so ridiculous that I have had to take multiple breaks from typing to laugh. Being serious, though, I do not know how you move forward from this. You should not move on from this. Either he changes his view, really changes, not just gives you lip service, or you need to find a new partner. Honestly, I am shocked that he would share this with you in the first place. What other reaction could you possibly have to this news? Yeah, you totally disrespect me when we are intimate. It is cool. I am totally a piece of garbage for you. Use me like a shameful fleshlight, and let us go to bed. Story 9. I would say it is a strange opinion to have. I have never thought of sex as disrespecting someone at all. I do not think many people do. Story 10. It's extremely common in a relationship for people to express ideas that are essentially underdeveloped, improvise thoughts that do not represent anything they have actually considered in depth. Your boyfriend said something truly, profoundly foolish. We agree there. But it is possible that this is just some foolish thing that slipped out of his mouth. I think there is a big difference between that and a core belief, so I would start by figuring out if he really, truly thinks this. Story 11. Not really. Although I dated a girl who believed it was disrespectful to keep your hat or shoes on because her body was a temple. Story 12. Your boyfriend is an idiot and he is basically admitting he does not respect you. If you allow this man to continue having access to your body, then you are also disrespecting yourself. Story 13. The only penetration that is disrespectful is the non-consensual type. Your boyfriend might be on his own with this one. Story 14. That is a typical homophobic attitude. They see bottoming or being penetrated as something shameful and degrading, which also reveals how they feel about women. Story 15. Man, is it my imagination or are people getting stranger? How broken does your mind have to be to hold an opinion like that? Story 16. I've never had it said directly to me, but I wouldn't think it is necessarily very rare. My guess is a lot of the people who hold this view are not even aware of it themselves. That said, I would be uncomfortable in your position too. Story 17. I don't need to comment much because everyone has already torn your boyfriend apart, which is well deserved. Story 18. No, I don't see it as disrespectful. Two men having sex are both gay, regardless of who is the bottom and who is the top, because it is two men having sex, not someone penetrating someone else. That's like saying it is not gay if it is just a handjob, or repressed Christians saying they are still a virgin if they only performed oral sex or engaged in anal sex. Story 19. It's a hierarchy and domination issue. This kind of opinion is very prevalent in Eastern Europe, especially in prison culture. Men who have sex with weaker men aren't seen as homosexual, even though they are literally having sex with another man, just because they are dominating and not being dominated. It's an ignorant perspective, but it is what it is. They probably can't understand that being attracted to a hairy man means there are people with straighter orientations than themselves. I don't mind what people do in their private lives and who they love, but I don't understand the mental gymnastics that claim gay sex is not gay if you say so. Regarding straight sex, I find it problematic to have sex with someone who thinks you are inferior somehow. By that logic, giving oral sex to your girlfriend would make you less of a man because you are being dominated. I don't know. Story 20. I would say run, do not walk out of that relationship. That's a profound lack of empathy and reflects a very alpha male persona from him. He is basically interpreting penetration as an act of ownership and domination, which is disrespectful to the person being penetrated. At the very least, you are looking at some major hang-ups in the bedroom long-term, and I would be worried about abusiveness in more extreme cases. Story 21. This is a very strange opinion. If this does not immediately send you running for the hills, ending this relationship, you might want to ask him where he is getting these ideas. I say might because this could open up a whole new can of worms that you are not prepared to see. Consensual sex is not disrespectful. It is a mutual act for pleasure or making babies. I do not even know what more to say. This opinion by your boyfriend has a real unpleasant factor to me, and I would be wondering, if I were you, whether he really actually likes women. I do not mean attraction, I just mean basic like and respect. Because there is a good chance that he sees women as objects and as things that are there for his convenience and pleasure. Does he expect you to cook, clean, or be available for sex when he is in the mood? Do you think if you have kids, he will expect you to be a stay-at-home mother? I bet there are a lot of other warning signs about this man that you have brushed off, explained away, or chosen to ignore. Maybe you should revisit those things and have a deep think about whether or not you want to spend your life, or any time really, with a man that believes he is disrespecting you every time you have sex. Story 22. Boyfriend is a little strange. Perhaps sex is a power dynamic for him. The penetrator is considered the powerful one, as it is traditionally a male role. This is very outdated thinking regardless. Story 23. That is psychopathic. I would understand if he felt it was feminine to be penetrated, but it has nothing to do with respect. Story 24. Yeesh. Unfortunately, he sees you as being beneath him, not as an equal. I am not one to criticize pornography use, but his view of sex and intimacy sounds like it has been solely shaped by pornography. Story 25. It is an attitude that goes back to ancient Greece when adult males would sleep with those not of the beard, meaning the prepubescent. It was considered dishonorable to let the boy be on top because it was unmanly, that is, taking the female role. Usually, that issue is confined to man-on-man relationships, but the balance of your boyfriend's perspectives may be equally Neanderthal. Story 26. That is a huge turnoff. I have sex with my boyfriend because he respects and loves me. This just feels like he is talking down on women for being penetrated. I do not know. Story 27. He is most certainly not fine with gay people. He thinks less of them depending on their position. The only disrespectful behavior is coming from him. You might want to do more investigation and ask how he feels about women, their roles, and his expectations for your future together. You do not want to be the woman who is surprised later when all the signs were there from day one. Story 28. This is a view as old as time. Somehow, being on the receiving end makes them lesser, like how women are seen as lesser for being penetrated. It is stupid. Story 29. Yes, you are absolutely right. I have to say that I personally could not have penetrating sex ever again with a person who has this opinion. That is a real turn-off. Story 30. You should periodically give him wet willies to assert dominance. Also, the above sentence is less ridiculous than what he said. Story 31. I have never heard another man say that ever. Your boyfriend has a distorted view of sex. He is definitely not representative of most people. Story 32. I'm not a homosexual man, but there is no disrespect in consensual penetration between anybody. It sounds like he does not care that he is always disrespecting you. That might be the biggest warning sign. Story 33. You should understand that this is not a common or normal attitude for most men. Your boyfriend has been taught some really negative values. Story 34. That is an extremely strange and concerning opinion. Do not take what he said lightly. There is some deeply troubling psychological issue behind it. There is a small possibility it is an underdeveloped thought that could be changed if you tried to understand it more deeply, but be cautious. Stay safe. Story 35. I suspect that this person is not accepting of gay people. He just tries to present it in a way that avoids judgment. I recommend that you do not talk to him anymore. Story 36. Edit. Upset the Peterson brothers seriously. Something tells me if you watch a few Jordan Peterson videos, you might recognize some things he has said before. Simply put, it is disrespectful for a man to penetrate another man because men must be respected. Even if penetrating a woman is disrespectful, it is acceptable because women do not deserve that level of decency or respect. This is just an explanation. I do not believe this. Please do not report me. Take this as a warning and be on your guard. Do not ignore other warning signs that arise. Story 37. That's weird. Sex is natural. Those are odd views on sex if you ask me. You have the right to feel uncomfortable. I would be weirded out if my partner said the same thing. Story 38. This is not weird at all. This is his truth. When people tell you who they are, believe them. This will manifest itself in your relationship in other ways. What he is poorly articulating is that the masculine action of penetrating inherently places the penetrated in a submissive or lesser form. He is basically telling you that he has dominion over you because he is a male. Again, this will manifest in other ways in your relationship. I am a male, by the way. Story 39. That's a weird take. He is equating sex to something mechanical, like a fist punching a wall. The wall breaks, so the active thing disrespected the passive thing. What if he thinks of it like a puzzle piece or a plug in the outlet? Are puzzle pieces and plugs disrespectful? Story 40. Lots of thoughts twisted around in this individual's head. It may be interesting, but it is probably not worth trying to figure out. Story 41. Yeah, he is way off. I do not feel that way at all. In fact, I feel that a certain level of respect is needed for me. Story 42. I think what he is saying is that people who are penetrated, such as gay bottoms and women, are of lesser value and therefore made to be penetrated. It is considered acceptable to respect them less, value them less, and exert power over them. Honestly, his mindset sounds predatory. Story 43. As a gay man, I can tell you with great certainty that many gay partners do not practice anal sex. Also, how is he going to decide who deserves his trust with a couple who does not reveal this information? It is not at all obvious. Most of us have moved out of ignorance, but some remain. Education is a wonderful thing. Tell him to get some. Story 44. This is a dated idea, but he is not entirely alone in this topping is not gay interpretation. The disrespect part is unclear, but it may make sense in cultures that highly value respect. I imagine that by disrespect, he refers to traditional gender roles, and that by being penetrated or being the bottom, one accepts a submissive role in a relationship. This is similar to getting angry or offended when asked to do womanly duties. Ultimately, it is rooted in pride and respect culture. However, this is only speculation based on text from one side of the issue, so take everything with caution. Story 45. He is strange. You should teach him the life lesson of not saying foolish things. It will haunt him. Break up with him. When he asks why, because he will be heartbroken. Just reply, I am tired of you disrespecting me. You will never disrespect me again. Leave. Story 46. No, honestly, most men don't think penetration is disrespectful at all. That is not a common way of thinking. It is actually a flawed idea. What your boyfriend said sounds like a red flag to me. If he really thinks that having sex with you, even the sweet, loving kind, is still a little disrespectful, that is a problem. It is not just weird. It makes me think he views sex more as about control or power rather than love and connection. Most men see sex as something special to share together. Being vulnerable, like being the one who is receiving, is not weak or shameful. It actually takes a lot of trust. Men who understand this usually respect it. Story 47. If my partner told me they were actively disrespecting me every time we were intimate, I would stop being intimate with them. Story 48. That is a very unhealthy position. I agree with the others who point out he is not your equal. He is emotionally immature, and he needs to know that if he feels this way, you deserve better. He may say he loves you, but he does not know what love is. Story 49. Some deep insecurities there. I just care about what is going on in my bedroom, not in other people's. As for penetration, as a man, I respect my lifelong partner and wife deeply, as I feel very honored that she chose me to bond with her in that way, being very attractive. But I meant what I said. Story 50. I hate to say it, but the only natural response to his words is to recoil at them. It would certainly not be to have sex with him and therefore be penetrated and disrespected. It is that simple. Rewarding him with sex after saying that is not in your best interests. Story 51. I think the word disrespect is confused with power. I can understand if he means power. Being a bottom usually involves giving up power and vulnerability. That is why we have the phrase power bottom, because it highlights power being taken back. Respect and power are different. Words are hard. The two are related. Story 52. I remember an episode of Law and Order Special Victims Unit. There was a suspect in a murder involving a gay love triangle. When they questioned him, he was adamant he was not gay. His justification was that he is a top, not a bottom. Apparently, it is common for television series to pick up on real social trends and integrate them into the show. Apparently, this behavior is some form of denial. If that is the case with your boyfriend, then he might be a pitcher. Good luck. I am not sure how to proceed from here. If you push, he will most likely become defensive. If you do not, you might find him trying on your clothes, joking, or in a compromising position. Story 53. I worked with a couple of men who thought like this. They grew up in very male-dominated households, both black and Hispanic, and believed it was disrespectful because it was gay, and that only a woman should be penetrated. Other than them, I have not met anyone else with that belief. Thank God. Story 54. No, this is not common. Your boyfriend is unreasonable. Every time he initiates sex, you should ask, "Why are you trying to disrespect me? What kind of woman do you think I am?" Story 55. This is just weird. I have never thought deeply about gay men. It is just a matter of doing whatever you want. It is not my preference, but life is short. What an odd area to set a boundary. Story 56. Sounds like an extension of the predator-prey mentality of sex and relationships, viewing the prey as inherently lesser. Unfortunately, I do not think that broader mentality is rare. The main problems are that 1, he does not like gay people, and 2, he absolutely does not respect you or see you as an equal outside of sex. Story 57. I have always felt that sex with a romantic partner is a physically and emotionally vulnerable act that requires a great deal of trust to have the best experience. If I thought I was disrespecting her, I don't know if I could enjoy it. I would want her to tell me so we can correct things and make it a positive experience for both of us. Yes, penetration is deeply intimate but not disrespectful if she desires it. Story 58. Common, unfortunately. When a man takes control of your body and uses it to please himself, you are often viewed as subordinate. It is a pity because I kind of like watching smaller men leading stronger ones. Story 59. I'm a man, and I do not date men. However, if a man I knew ever said that to me about gay men or about women, I would stop talking to him. That is very disturbing that he views sex and interpersonal relationships this way. Story 60. He is right, and that is true. If you want to respect women, you should be polite and gentle. Story 61. I feel like this describes about 95% of the men I have had conversations with about sex. It is poor sex education at a preschool age, in my opinion. Story 62. As a gay man, I would end a relationship if he said that to me. I cannot imagine you will be able to get that sentence out of your head. So rest in peace to him ever having a romantic encounter again. Story 63. Do not let Reddit's narrow demographic fool you. Such a mindset is more common than you think. While framing it as disrespect is strange, the general idea of seeing being penetrated as weak has been common in multiple cultures throughout much of history and is subtly reinforced in many modern societies. Most men in America feel that way to varying degrees. It is deeply culturally ingrained. It is similar to seeing someone who is physically smaller as weaker. Some take that feeling in the direction of wanting to look after and take care of the one perceived as weaker. Others might look down on them as inferior. The distinction between tops and bottoms is similarly found throughout history and modern societies. Story 64. I think it's a strong opinion, but 1% understandable with how English works. Phrases like, fuck you, get fucked, and suck my dick are some of the most offensive things you can say to people. I can see how it might instill the idea that being penetrated is bad in some people. I think your interpretation of his stance on it being unpleasant is fair, though, and he needs to change or have a conversation. Story 65. Let's play the devil's advocate. Isn't it common language? Like, you've been messed with. It doesn't mean you have been respected. Story 66. It is not uncommon for people, especially men, to associate penetration with dominance and submission. In that framework, the insertive partner is often viewed as dominant, taking pleasure from the receptive partner, who is seen as submitting or lowering himself. This dynamic appears frequently in both gay and straight pornography, where penetration is framed as a power imbalance, with one person dominating the other. If your boyfriend believes that penetration is inherently disrespectful, he may be internalizing those portrayals. This is especially likely if most of his exposure to sex comes from adult media where that framing is widespread. He may not have seen or experienced sex portrayed as mutual, loving, and equal. There is also the possibility, although it may be uncomfortable to consider, that he had a personal experience, whether traumatic or not, that shaped how he views penetration. This does not mean he is gay, as some might suggest. It means he does not yet have a healthy or well-rounded understanding of what sex can be when it is grounded in intimacy and mutual respect. Story 67. As a gay man, I can say I have never felt disrespected by being penetrated. The best orgasms I have come from having a penis inside me. His views are outdated and people should be free to use their bodies however they feel. I do not feel less of a man for bottoming from time to time. Story 68. I can understand the gay perspective. It is a bit old-fashioned, but I get the machismo side of it. However, the idea that it is somehow disrespectful to be intimate with your own partner is not common, and it is definitely not weak or lesser to have intercourse with someone you care about. I am just a bit baffled by his perspective. I would point out that despite the fact that he may take the lead in the bedroom, you still get to decide when you take control. That is your decision, and in no way is he disrespecting you in the act of lovemaking. Summary. Tell him he made a mistake and needs to rethink how he approaches things in the bedroom. He may have the key, but it is your decision when he gets to open the lock. Story 69. It is definitely not a common opinion that any heterosexual male believes he is disrespecting his partner every time he penetrates her. Just know. Story 70. Many people here in Eastern Europe view it this way too. I personally don't understand it. I am completely straight, but if a girl really wants to, and I am interested in her, I will allow her to explore that. After all, I am intimate with her, so it is only fair. Story 71. Unfortunately, I would say it is a common belief despite what many commenters are saying. It is a very strange and confused belief, as many people mention, but I think it is common. Story 72. I bet a lot of people feel this to some degree, even without knowing it. It is why dogs of both sexes hump each other to establish dominance. Why guys playing video games hump the other person their character just defeated. It is the reason the bedroom power play you engage in exists in the first place. It is more complex in a loving relationship, but I think all men, even really enlightened, feminist ones, very deep down see penetrating a woman as owning her. Story 73. Some feminists from a particular movement believed that sex could never be equal and was always disrespectful to women. Story 74. I don't understand why people are calling him insane. He did not walk out and offer this opinion unprompted. He was asked and he answered. It is not his fault that people do not like his answer. Do not ask if you do not want to know. He is entitled to his opinion. Story 75. I think he is confusing his terms. I believe what he means to say is dominating. Now, the act of dominating can be disrespectful, absolutely. When penetrating, you are entering another person's body. This can be an act of aggression or by invitation. You are either being subjected to the invasion or consenting to the invited entry. For men who are dominant in the bedroom, submitting is often seen as disrespectful. Animals in nature use mounting as an act of dominance to establish a hierarchy. So, to some, being the receiver can be perceived as being disrespected, especially from a straight man's viewpoint. I think he needs to adjust his thinking a little. Sometimes, submitting to your partner can be an incredibly loving and trusting act. Story 76. There is a general sense of connection between overpowering someone and sexually penetrating them for evolutionary reasons. Prison rape is often an act of dominance. Rape of weaker men is a known form of war crime. Being strong enough to overpower someone is often considered attractive to women and gay men because it indicates evolutionary fitness. However, it is normal for women and gay men to consensually want penetration. Sex is managed by law and culture, so it does not matter if there are brutal animal reasons behind some of it as long as consensual relationships are properly regulated. Story 77. He is going to emotionally implode when he turns 40 and needs the examination. Edited to add that, as a straight man, the only penetration I find disrespectful is surprise penetration. Story 78. Your boyfriend is prejudiced against LGBTQ plus individuals and holds negative views toward women. You should firmly tell him that you will not allow him to disrespect you again. Story 79. Vulnerability and submission are part of penetration. In his eyes, when he penetrates you, he conquers you. That is what he is getting at. Disrespect is not the right word, but it resides in the same area code. Story 80. If he uses someone's consenting sexual preferences to determine whether he likes them, then you should not stay with him. Unless you plan to be intimate forever, he will instantly lose respect for you as a person if you ever sleep with him. Please address this maturely with him, and if he does not respond appropriately, then it is time to move on. Story 81. This is some ancient Greek tier weirdness. It is definitely not a normal opinion, and yes, you are right to feel uncomfortable about it. The person has told you what they think of you having sex with them. Believe them. Story 82. Ask him what he will do when he needs a colonoscopy or an upper gastrointestinal endoscopy. Will he feel that the doctor is disrespecting him and refuse the procedure? Story 83. Are you sure he meant disrespect? Or is he wording it incorrectly? Maybe submissive is what he meant, because allowing someone inside your body is an extremely vulnerable position that involves submission. Disrespect is a strange way to describe it. You may want to ask him more questions to fully understand what he meant. Story 84. What in the actual hell? I am straight. I have never heard of that as an opinion. Gay people like sex just as much as anyone else. To say it is disrespectful to any orientation is a matter of being disrespectful to anyone. Story 85. It is a juvenile mentality to think that being submissive during sex is the same as allowing disrespect. Some young men seem unable to mature. Some people may want to be disrespected during sex, but it is role play, just playing around and not being serious about it. Your boyfriend does not seem to understand that difference. You are definitely right to feel uncomfortable, and you are not overreacting. Story 86. Not common, very strange. It sounds like he has a Madonna complex. He cannot separate his view of women as pure, chaste mother figures from his lust and desire to have sex with them. Story 87. I can understand perceiving a man as the submissive partner as being less masculine and, for that reason, less respectable. Story 88. It's strange, I am loath to admit, but there is a small part of me that has held similar thoughts for much of my life. When I was younger, I too saw penetration as disrespectful, for lack of a better word, that it was other-womanly, and that it was better to be the active partner than the receptive one in regards to gay sex. Not that I consciously thought gay people were wrong, bad, or unnatural, or anything to that extent. Two very close friends growing up eventually came out as gay, and I am still close with them to this day. Yet the idea that there was some type of power associated with the act of penetration existed. I imagined how a woman must feel, or how their father might feel about them being penetrated by another man. I wrestled with thoughts that women relinquish some aspect of power through the act of being penetrated. The whole father idea is obviously tied to internalized patriarchal ideas of men's ownership of their women, which I now actively realize I should challenge and push against. I recognize such patterns of thinking are wrong and harmful, yet to some degree they persist. It was always an ugly, quiet thought I kept to myself and acknowledged was wrong, but I have been unable to entirely banish such lines of thought. Story 89. I think that is a strange perspective to have. That said, it is natural for men to feel uncomfortable with or put off by homosexuality. A study found that men had a similar neurological reaction to seeing men kiss as to seeing maggots. There was a billboard near my office showing two middle-aged men kissing, and I felt physically repulsed by it. Story 90. Often, it is more taboo to sleep with your friend's sister as a guy compared with a brother as a girl. Story 91. Some people seem to associate being submissive with their entire personality. While that is fine for those who prefer that dynamic, others may find it degrading. It does not have to be that way, but some people do have that impression. Story 92. Laugh out loud. Hey, do you want me to go disrespect you right now? This is a weird and funny take on it. I am going to use this on the next girl. Story 93. I think he is confusing vulnerability with disrespect. This makes sense in the male brain, though it is not an accurate perspective. There is a cultural history to this sentiment as well. If I recall correctly, in some older Arabic cultures, not necessarily exclusive to them, penetration is seen as something done to those of a lower class, whether that be women or other men. Story 94. First, I am a straight man. I dislike the idea of being sexually penetrated. It seems very uncomfortable to me. I do not fully understand why someone would enjoy it psychologically, though many people do. However, I have no issue with sexually penetrating someone else, as long as they are a woman. In fact, I enjoy the idea of doing that. That said, I do not view being sexually penetrated as inherently disrespectful. There are certain connotations attached to those who are sexually penetrated, such as being submissive or feminine, and many people still hold these views. If I were to sexually penetrate a consenting woman, I would not see that as disrespecting her. If I put my penis inside her, it is not taking anything away from her except maybe her virginity if she is a virgin, nor does it make her less of a person. It simply means that she has been sexually penetrated by me. However, if she does not like being penetrated for any reason, I would find it disrespectful to insist that she try it, as this would go against her wishes and what she is comfortable with. That is an individual matter, not something inherent to sexual penetration itself. I would not be surprised if a straight cisgender man felt disrespected if he was sexually penetrated, but I do not understand why that discomfort would apply to others. Story 95. Hypocrisy has reached new levels. You should ask him to stop disrespecting you, and then let's see how the attitude changes. Story 96. If he was saying he would feel disrespected if he got penetrated, then that would make sense. I think your man is just unusual. The way I see it, it does not matter who receives the penetration as long as they are not trying to do that to me. As long as they are decent to me, I will respond in kind. Story 97. That is unusual, and it is a clear admission that he is being disrespectful every time he is engaging in intimacy. Story 98. Ask him if he seriously believes that there is no pleasure inherent in penetration and offer to prove it to him. Story 99. That is an outdated perspective that equates penetration with power and being penetrated with weakness. In both heterosexual and homosexual relationships, the submissive partner often enjoys being penetrated and can even be the dominant person. There is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying being submissive or being penetrated. The misconception is that the submissive partner is inferior to the dominant partner. Unless someone identifies as a second-wave feminist, follows Andrea Dworkin, and believes that all sex is rape. Story 100. It is a holdover from misogyny and the idea that things that are feminine make a man inherently less masculine. It is both a very common belief historically and in many less progressive countries or conservative groups. Story 101. Your boyfriend has issues. I honestly don't care who is the receptive partner. There is nothing disrespectful in either role. What a strange argument to insist on. So, does he disrespect you when you have sex? Story 102. He is either kind of unintelligent or a secretive, unpleasant person, or both. There is a low chance of it being neither. Personally, those are both deal breakers for me, but you need to decide whether or not that is the case for yourself. Story 103. That is a strange opinion. I can understand an argument for calling it feminine to be offensive, but disrespectful. The person is mistaken. Story 104. When the United States was discussing the presence of homosexual individuals in the military, it was revealed that only the United States and Turkey prohibited homosexuals among North Atlantic Treaty Organization nations. Military service is compulsory in Turkey, so being homosexual could have been a way to avoid service. Due to the criteria related to sexual roles, only receptive partners were exempt. They required a photograph of a man willingly engaged in a sexual act with another man. Therefore, I have imagined there is a drawer full of photographs of young men in such situations, smiling and giving a thumbs up to the camera. Story 105. My thoughts reading your submission are that sex often involves one partner needing something to go into, such as a hand, a mouth, or hopefully oral stimulation somewhere along the way. However, I have never considered it disrespectful when my partner is the receiver during sexual activities involving hand stimulation, touching the anus, or oral sex, or anything else. Not to be overly analytical, but maybe your partner could consider discussing his perspective with an older person. Because yes, it could be a warning sign. Story 106. He is basically saying that women are lower status and naturally meant to be disrespected. I do not think I would be able to have sex again with that kind of person. Story 107. Your boyfriend needs to take some human sexuality classes and consider therapy. He is not treating you well, and you should probably end the relationship. Men who think like this see women as objects to possess, and he may cheat on you. If he respects you, he will avoid having intercourse just for fun and will engage in intercourse for procreation. However, with this attitude towards sex, he may seek out women he does not respect for casual sex. Story 108. It is not common nowadays, but in ancient China, there was a practice to differentiate crimes related to sodomy. The man who was the active partner would not be charged, but the man who was the passive partner would be charged. This law reflected ancient beliefs that equated penetration with power. Being penetrated was seen as a threat to the regime and patriarchy. Story 109. There is a mistake in the first paragraph. Your boyfriend is not okay with gay people. He also thinks he is superior to women. He has a tiered hierarchy for who has value in society, and I would bet my savings that there are different positions for race too. At the top of that list is white, straight, male. If someone had that opinion of my brother, he would be an X in a heartbeat. Story 110. He is in the wrong. Even some heterosexual people enjoy a good pegging every now and then. It is not being disrespected. It is being intimate. What does he think it means for a man to have sex? Are only women and homosexual men disrespected from sex? Are straight men the only ones allowed to penetrate during sex and be fine? That is unfair. Story 111. Well, let me say this. Some sexual acts can feel condescending. Like when my wife once wanted to try something that I thought felt overpowering towards her in a way that I just didn't initially like. But then, as we talked more, I realized movies and pornography put that idea in my head. Your boyfriend is not saying this because he has had experience being a top or bottom. He gathered it from movies or television. He shouldn't really be speaking on something that he has no experience with. I'll also add that usually somebody is giving and somebody is receiving. This is sort of metaphorical sometimes, not just at surface value. But it is possible that what he is saying is that there is a taker and a giver. It is not a great way to look at sex. So much about pornography and film misses the point. Nothing is more awesome than giving your partner as much fun as they want. Nothing but respect and love there. Sometimes people want to be treated disrespectfully, but if that's a choice, then it's not really disrespectful in my opinion. Story 112. That is an odd stance. For the sake of biology or whatever, it does feel more dominant for someone to take the lead, so maybe that is what he is referring to, like an I could not possibly be submissive attitude. But it is not even disrespect. That is more related to intent. Story 113. The person has a strange idea of disrespect. Frankly, you do not have to think hard about how you could change that completely. The top is being disrespected because. Story 114. To preface, I think his opinion is deeply concerning and unwise. How anyone can allow this opinion and behavior to continue is beyond me. That being said, I do not think the central idea of his opinion is uncommon in traditionalist circles, if unspoken. The one being penetrated is seen as the submissive, inferior one, and the one penetrating is considered the dominant, superior one. The act of penetrating is viewed as removing the potential to be superior and, therefore, disrespectful, to put it in his terms. It's a brutish, animalistic approach that makes sense in a basic, primal way. How people cannot understand this is beyond me and somewhat depressing when considering general human critical thinking. The idea itself is not strange. We have simply evolved significantly beyond it in advanced civilizations. This is not the case everywhere, but some form of this idea appears in nearly every culture's history and religion. Society has been ruled by straight men throughout history. It is understandable that being penetrated is not praised or uplifted. I am honestly annoyed to even explain this. Not to you, original poster, but the fact that this sort of thing is not a higher priority for discussion. Story 115. He is homophobic, but only toward the gay people who are penetrated by a man, not toward those who are penetrating. Sorry, but your boyfriend is a douche, not because of his views on being uncomfortable with gay people, but purely because he chooses to exclude one group and fully hate another. People may believe what they want and have their own religions, but to be so hypocritical is actually ridiculous. I have nothing nice to say about your boyfriend. Story 116. Homophobia or dominance and power issues. Some men see penetration in places other than the vagina as a display of power because the partner is submitting. I have also encountered a few men in life who ended their relationship after having sex for the first time, despite being virgins before that. They said something like ruined. It seems they want a pure partner for a relationship while having a mistress on the side. Story 117. It seems like there are two options. There could be more, but this is my opinion. 1. He is using the word due to a lack of vocabulary for what he actually meant. 2. He is a bad person for ever thinking you deserve less than the utmost respect at all times. Story 118. Do not try to interpret what he is trying to say. He told you. He disrespects you, he is comfortable with that, and he is upfront about it. Stop trying to see that flag through a perspective that will make it appear not red. It is red. It is big. It is waving. If you respect yourself, you will move on and forget him. Story 119. It is unusual, but men tend to have strange beliefs due to their toxic environment. If a man is good and open-minded about self-improvement, he deserves a chance. Story 120. Unusual opinion. Penetration is simply how sexual intercourse functions as nature intended. There is nothing disrespectful about penetrating or being penetrated. Story 121. I am not sure what he is talking about. Some men do not believe that a woman cheating is the same as a man cheating. Because the woman is penetrated and the man is not, they think it is not the same. This may receive many downvotes. Please do not shoot the messenger. Story 122. He was unusual, but you are thinking too much about it, I think. Is he usually good at communication? He probably did not even mean what he said but went too far and did not know how to recover. He probably tried to sound funny but realized too late that he was not. Sometimes I completely fail at being funny and end up being incredibly unusual, but people I grew up with know this, just laugh about it and give me breaks. Story 123. Taking it up the intestine is just gross in my opinion. It doesn't matter if it's a same-sex act or not. I have no intention of even asking my wife for access to her digestive tract. As for the disrespect, your boyfriend has some unusual thoughts about that. Story 124. I think that is very unwise. It is okay to not want to be penetrated. I know I do not, but it has nothing to do with respect. I agree that anyone who says that is also saying they do not respect women, or at least not during sex. Story 125. That's definitely an odd take on it. Penetrative sex is, in my humble opinion, inherently a little dominant for men, or perhaps it would be better to say that for her, it is inherently somewhat submissive or, as you said, vulnerable. But disrespectful? I just do not see that. Sex is not disrespectful unless one of the partners is not a willing participant. Story 126. Your boyfriend is homophobic. He may not be an extreme homophobe, but he is still homophobic. This was a common belief 20 or more years ago. The bottom is seen as the real queer. The guy on top is still acting like a man, so he is not considered as bad. It is that kind of thinking. Story 127. Your boyfriend is clearly too immature for sexual activity. If he holds this belief and is older than 12 years old, you should be concerned. Story 128. He holds an inherently homophobic stance. It is unusual for a straight man to have an opinion about preferring top or bottom men. Man alive. Story 129. Maybe he means unpleasant but didn't want to hurt your feelings. Because men who are not attracted to other men typically find all other men unpleasant. Story 130. As someone who identifies as queer, it is not a common thought, but you encounter it more often than you might think. The more common version is about how straight-passing they are. It is about minimizing their gayness to appear almost normal. Normal for them means being straight. While this is mostly observed in men, the number of women in the same situation is astounding. Story 131. Your boyfriend should become your ex because that is seriously messed up and toxic behavior. You, your brother, and your brother's partner, current or future, will never have his respect if that is how he thinks. Story 132. Your boyfriend has serious issues. Does he go around questioning gay people to determine if he respects them? Story 133. That is extremely strange and upsetting and should be a reevaluate the relationship type revelation. Story 134. I'm pretty sure your boyfriend is internally homophobic and exhibits a whole new level of misogyny, leaning towards dislike of feminine characteristics. Story 135. Your boyfriend is unintelligent, but more importantly, he despises women, including you. What are you going to do about that? Story 136. This sounds like he hates gay men and women. He is disrespecting you if he feels that way. It does not seem like role-playing to him. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.